law enforcement agencies' ability to investigate unlawful activity in relation to a center, on-premise cultivation, or marijuana-infused products manufactured. They have the authority to run CCIC checks, primary caregivers, licensee employees during an investigation of unlawful activity. That's what the statute says.
Yeah, no, I certainly follow that, but that didn't limit you in requesting that they have a logging system to log in and out the viewing of patient activities.
But typically that log could go directly on just like our POS. That log could go directly on the video.
This wouldn't be on an open website that anyone could log into, so you'd have to have access codes to log into it anyway, and that would seem like that would leave a data timestamp. I mean, this is a Ryan.
We have full logging. I mean, when they log in, you'll know damn well they log in. You'll know they log in.
Well,
they'll give you full logging because it's the username and password. It's not that they have a special username and password that they type in. Or they would be if you like, Colorado Department of Revenue, but it will show a log. Okay.
The Department of Revenue is going to be the repository of videos, all that data that comes in, right? So if a local law enforcement officer wants to look at, any law enforcement officer wants to look at it, they've got to go through someone at the Department of Revenue, yes? So probably there's a way to accommodate whatever level of concern there is about people just getting in there and viewing things when they shouldn't be, or not signing in or out. If you're the repository, I'm pretty sure that's something that you're going to have a control over anyway.
There will be controls put in place there, but the reality is, I'm just going to say it, I don't regulate law enforcement. I got enough on my plate with just the industry itself. No, but I want to go on record to say that. There are protocols in place for the abuse and use of information within each of the departments anyway. And again, they're subject to the same statutory provisions that Rob and I haven't really connected on yet in terms of abuse. Well, they are, and it's just the reality of it. So, anyway, go ahead.
So, and I'm sorry that I'm not aware of this, but from a Department of Revenue perspective, if you see some evidence of a crime, or a crime that you believe there's a crime going on, is there some protocol by which you share that with law enforcement? If a liquor store is, you believe, selling to underage minors, and are you able to just share that freely with other law enforcement agencies?
Well, it's criminal justice information, and we routinely work with local law enforcement, period, if we go into a venue. I mean, the reality is, you may have, or local law enforcement may have an ongoing investigation, period, and that's why we're set up regionally. It does a number of things. You build the relationships with the industry, you build the relationships with the law enforcement. This is not an effort that can be done by just a single agency. This requires everybody to be at the table. That's why we're doing the process we're doing.
Understood. So in other industries, you're able to share that information.
Absolutely.
And I understand there's patient confidentiality issues that I assume you're going to navigate through.
Yeah. Now I can't go, I don't know, again for sake of argument, I couldn't go share gaming information with a law enforcement person. I couldn't go share proprietary liquor information with a law enforcement person. I mean,
and that's
those
my
are
next
things,
question.
Yeah.
Under those circumstances, law enforcement then has to perhaps subpoena the information or get a search warrant of some sort for that information, and that can be done under seal, correct?
That's right.
So there could be a sealed search warrant type of situation. So really, is there any need to address the concerns, and valid concerns that have been voiced here? Is there any need, or is that already all set in stone?
Well, again, from my perspective, it's already set in stone, but I'm trying to provide some comfort to the people at the table here. And the other way that I can do this is I can bring the statutes in, the existing statutes, and say, here it is in law, here's what we're all bound by. That would be another way that I could do it. So,
I mean, the issue that Ryan brought up, I think, is a real issue for patients. If, law enforcement sees it as a last resort to use this protected information to prejudice, in this case, to say they lost her right. I mean, the charges were dropped, this information is out there. I mean, that to me seems arbitrary, capricious, and certainly against, the very core of Amendment 20, which is meant to protect patient confidentiality. So that's a real incident of abuse in my
How about a requirement that government officials that are engaged in this regulatory effort fill out the same application and same disclosures that we in the industry have to fill out, and a requirement that, you know, their activities be videotaped at all times as well. If they're not doing anything wrong and they're not engaged in any improper financial activities, then they really have nothing to fear by, you know, video camera scrutiny and investigation of their financial situation.
Again,
Perhaps you'd be interested.
we're going to move on here because I'm not regulating law enforcement. If they're on your licensed premises, they're under the same scrutiny, the same camera as everybody else, and so the record is made.
But if this industry is, you know, inherently corrupt, then aren't the people that are supposed to be watching this industry susceptible to that same degree of corruption? And then who is watching the watchers?
Who's gonna watch the watchers?
And if you're not doing anything wrong, what do you have to fear? I've heard that in this room a dozen times regarding the video cameras. So if government is not doing anything wrong, why does it fear the same level of scrutiny that it is mandating we take on?
And it's not about fear. I don't regulate law enforcement, and I'm not going to start today.
What about the
It's
Department of
driven by
Revenue?
law.
What about all the
No
Department of
intent is to
Revenue?
put cameras throughout this building for the things that we do. Believe it or not, I do a lot more than just this, and that's not going to be subject to a camera. Go ahead, Ryan.
Does it claim in the statute somewhere that, that local law enforcement, all enforcement has the ability to view it anywhere, or is that something that is, I know you mentioned that they could view it from, you know, their car or something like that, but is it in the statute that states that that's open, or is there a possibility of making it so, kind of like the Department of Health has, where you have to go and, you know, it's in one office, it's in one spot, you can't just get outside access. Yeah, is that, I mean, I guess what I'm asking is it in a statute, or is it too much going out of bounds to ask from the industry if there is a problem with local law enforcement or something like that, they would come to the marijuana office?
Well, I mean, I think the argument would be that I'm limiting law enforcement's ability to do their job, and that's contrary to the statute that I read you. But let me, I want to go back to what Brian has submitted here, because we digressed. I got to tell you, I read through this quickly, and I mean, if this is what you're proposing, there's a few little things that we need to work on, but I mean, we're 99% there.
Yeah, I think there's a fair amount of commonality. At the same time, I think this is more, I think.
No, let me just say, this first paragraph where it says we have to remove all personally identifiable information. If it's a criminal justice record, we have the ability to share criminal justice information amongst criminal justice entities. And again, that's another part of that record, or that act. But other than that, what you have written here is what I'm saying, so.
Well, that phrase that you're talking about, all personally identifiable information about marijuana patients shall be removed unless otherwise required by law. If there is probable cause of a crime that you are able to see, you should be able to share that with law enforcement. And do you think that otherwise required by law kind of addresses that scenario?
Well, and that's what I mean, we're close.
Okay.
Yeah, we're close. And I wanted you to recognize that in law, and you probably already know this, I know you're a lawyer, but there's a distinction in law between criminal justice records and public records. And if it's an ongoing investigation, which if we're looking at something, obviously that's what it's about, it's a criminal justice record. So if I was working, again, just for sake of argument, if I'm looking at a center in Denver, and I had reason to believe that there were issues and things going on, I'm probably going to call Lieutenant Martinez or one of the people that work for him. We're going to share information. I can share any information that I've gathered during my investigation. It's criminal justice information at the point. It's an ongoing investigation. Could I go to Ryan's center and say, hey, Ryan, look what's going on in Denver? No, obviously not. He's not a criminal justice person. I could go, conversely, go talk to my AG and say, here's the information that I have, here's the people that it pertains to, those kind of things. I by statute as to what I can and cannot